All right, let's just dive right into this explainer. Imagine the most secure, deeply compartmentalized intelligence apparatus on the planet, suddenly dropping its files straight onto the internet. Well, in May 2026, thanks to mounting legal pressure and this massive reorganization into the Department of War, that actually happened. A highly calculated data dump, the PERS archive, was accidentally declassified. Today, we're doing a forensic autopsy on a genuinely unsettling 13-page classified slide deck buried right in that dump. It's known as the Western U.S. event. And look, this is absolutely not your standard run-of-the-mill blurry weather balloon story. No, we're looking at a cold, hard mathematical breakdown of a literal temporal breach.
I want you to really pay attention to the precise, clinical language the federal government uses here. This is an exact quote, straight from an FBI Laboratory Division rendering, detailing an encounter from September 2023. They explicitly describe, quote, an ellipsoid bronze metallic object materializing out of a bright light in the sky, 130 to 195 feet in length, and disappearing instantaneously, unquote. That last word right there, instantaneously, that is going to be absolutely critical for us to keep in mind as we unpack the rest of this.
So how did this even see the light of day? We really have to look at the source of this leak. Between May 8th and May 23rd of 2026, the Arconic firewall just completely collapsed. The newly minted Department of War had just established this system, the Presidential Unsealing and Reporting System for UAP Encounters. Obviously, we know it as the PERSU archive. And right there in those files, completely buried among hundreds of other documents, the military essentially accidentally declassified the receipt for an impossible machine.
Let's lay out the crime scene facts, because honestly, they read like the opening of a chilling police dossier. Date, September 2023. Location, a classified facility somewhere in the western U.S. Witnesses, 7 highly trained federal law enforcement special agents. 7. And the phenomenon they saw? An instantaneous materialization and disappearance. The analysis we have comes straight from the FBI Laboratory Division. 7 federal agents watched this happen with their own eyes.
And we really need to pause on the terrifying scale we're talking about here. 195 feet. To put that into perspective, that is a massive macroscopic craft that is significantly larger than a Boeing 747 commercial airliner. Just try to picture that. Something bigger than a jumbo jet, just popping into existence out of a blinding light, hovering there, and then vanishing. No sound. Absolutely zero trace of exhaust, nothing.
So naturally, you're probably wondering, how does something larger than a commercial airliner just vanish? Well, here's the pivot. It wasn't magic, it definitely wasn't optical camouflage, and it wasn't some weird trick of the light. The source documents make it explicitly clear it was pure mathematics. What we are looking at is a macroscopic craft executing a localized space-time metric disruption.
According to the declassified physics in this deck, this disappearance followed a very precise 4-step mechanical process. First, the craft generates this massive electromagnetic vortex. Second, that vortex induces a localized frame dragging effect. Then, it literally wraps its own hull in a warp metric. And finally, it mathematically removes itself from local spacetime coordinates. Basically, it didn't just fly away in any traditional sense. It mathematically deleted its coordinates from our reality.
Okay, to really grasp this, we need a quick refresher on the underlying physics, specifically the Lense-Thirring effect, also known as frame dragging. In Einstein's general relativity, this is a proven phenomenon, where a supermassive, rapidly rotating object physically drags the very fabric of spacetime along with it. What this bronze craft is doing is artificially generating an immensely powerful, high-frequency electromagnetic vortex to bend local gravity. It essentially creates a low-inertia pocket right around itself.
The source material actually uses this perfectly vivid metaphor to make the high-level physics of frame dragging instantly click. It says, quote, "It twists the local vacuum like a drill bit twisting water in a glass." Just imagine spacetime as that water. By spinning a supercooled plasma or an electromagnetic field, the craft acts as that drill bit, literally twisting and stretching the local gravitational field right around its hull. It's wild to think about.
And that brings us directly to the Alcubierre warp metric. By contracting the space in front of it while simultaneously expanding the space behind it, the craft mathematically creates a bubble of isolated space-time. The bronze ellipsoid wraps its entire hull in this metric. So get this, the ship itself isn't actually moving through space at all. It sits completely motionless inside this localized warp bubble of flat space-time, totally decoupled from our terrestrial inertia.
Just take a look at this space-time interval equation. Now,
I know it looks intense, but this isn't science fiction. This is the scientifically unassailable nature of the craft's propulsion, pulled right from the declassified documents. This equation right here mathematically defines that warp metric. It's absolute proof that the physics behind this instantaneous disappearance are entirely grounded in empirical, theoretical astrophysics, and it's physics that our military is actively studying. So what happens when we translate all of this wild physics to our military sensors? The forensic radar signatures are just staggering. Think about a standard aircraft failure. It leaves a predictable, descending Newtonian radar track right, and usually a massive field of kinetic debris. But this bronze ellipsoid, because it induces the Lense-Thirring effect and rides inside that warp metric, it mathematically drops its radar cross-section to absolute zero. Instead of a debris field, it leaves a quantum-level forensic signature, literally a collapsing tear in the local spacetime metric.
And guys, here is where it gets truly wild. Because it drops its radar cross-section to zero, it triggers what the files specifically describe as a catastrophic kinematic divide by zero error on federal targeting computers. Our highly advanced defense systems literally break down an error out when they try to process this object.
Let's break down the math on exactly why that happens. Standard velocity is calculated as the change in distance over the change in time. Velocity equals delta x over delta t. Simple enough, right? But because this craft isolates itself and completely jumps outside of local time, that time variable, delta t, reaches zero. And as we all know, when you divide by zero, the entire velocity equation collapses into infinity. The targeting computer simply cannot lock on to or compute a target that has mathematically removed itself from time itself.
Which leads to the chilling final verdict of this entire forensic autopsy. According to the document, quote, "The FBI did not witness a fast aircraft. They witnessed an extratempestrial temporal breach. The craft didn't just move fast, it bypassed our physical reality entirely, utilizing a localized spacetime disruption to literally jump through the metric. That changes everything. It fundamentally shifts our entire understanding of what really happened in the Western US back in September 2023.
Which leaves us with this final, incredibly unsettling thought to chew on. If our physics are being mathematically rewritten in the sky above us by 195-foot bronze objects, are we actually prepared for the ontological wreckage of a temporal breach? These accidentally declassified Pursuit files have cracked the door wide open. It is no longer a question of if these machines are operating in our skies, but how they are rewriting the very fabric of reality just to be there. Definitely something to think about the next time you look up.